What's up my witches, welcome back to my channel. I am the City Witch and today we're reviewing this new book in my collection called Sea, Land, Sky, a Dragon Magic Grimoire setting forth on the Drag She path. This one is written by Parker and Gwen Torrance and it has been recently revised as well, so if you do buy it on Amazon you will get the revised version. Now I know here I said Drag She path and you're probably thinking, isn't that Sydney? Which is a fairy word. Now they apparently say it should be pronounced she, so that is how I'm pronouncing it, and there are pronunciation lessons in this book for many of the words and terminology that they use, so don't worry about that. Okay, so as always, I will show you the inside of the book. I will talk you through the contents, and there's quite a lot in this book when it comes to the contents. I will let you know my positives and negatives, and actually there was a few neutrals with this book as well that I want to mention. And then I will score the book from 1 to 10 and let you know if it made it into my magical library or not. So let's dive in, shall we? So before I read the back of the book, I just want to give you a close-up of the front cover. I know it just looks like a black book, but there is actually an outline of a dragon right here. I just don't know if it's going to show up on the camera, so if I give it a bit of a tilt, maybe you guys can see it. But I promise you, there is a dragon image there. It's just black on black, which makes it really difficult to see. So let's see what the back has to say to begin our journey. Dragons, you find them everywhere, from Tiamat of Babylonian mythology to the Leviathan of the Hebrews. There are the dragons of Chinese culture and myth. The Vikings had their dragons, the Aztecs also had dragons. Dragons are found in almost every place that man is found. We seem to have some primal, archetypical link with these colossal creatures. Could dragons just be an afterimage trapped in our cultural memory from some distant prehistoric man that glimpsed the last of the race of some long dead creature? Or are dragons something more than memory? Could it be that they coexist with us in a dimension that dreams and magic give us access to? Whatever the case, whatever your belief, I submit that with knowledge and practice you can employ dragons in your magic. Okay. So let's dive into the book. You will get some lovely images inside this book and there is some artwork. The artist is listed at the back if you're interested and like her work. So, contents. First of all, you get some acknowledgements and a foreword, and then you get a sort of introduction to the book, which is called The Magic of Light. That also kind of breaks down how the book is set out. So there is a lot of information about, first of all, dragons of the sea, then the land and the sky, and then introducing yourself to dragons and working with them. And then there is kind of a ritual spell section to the book, and then they end with talking about their particular path, which is called the Drag She path, which is their own tradition that they uniquely designed. And it's kind of a blend of Celtic, Druid and fairy magic, but you're working with dragons while performing that style of magic. So it's kind of a blend of different things. It's quite unusual and interesting. So the chapters, there's a lot of them, guys. There's like 3 pages worth, so I'm going to do my best to read everything out to you so you get an idea of what's inside this book. And then as always, we will go through the positives and negatives and the neutrals that I've listed, and I'll let you know what I thought of the book. So chapter 1, Here There Be Dragons. Enter the dragons, dragon magic and magic in general. So this is kind of like your introduction to dragons themselves, magic and dragon magic. One of the things I will state is this is not a history mythological book. It's not going to give you every little detail about dragons. You are going to have to do some more research, guys, and you will need to know a bit about dragons before you pick this book up. This is just giving you the very foundational basics to kind of get you started, but researching is going to really help you on this journey. Chapter 2, The Dragon of Sea. Those that came before, Shrine of Things Gone By, Magic of the Dragons of the Sea. Chapter 3, The Dragons of Land. Touching the Earth, What Are These Watchtowers, Dragons of the Cardinal Points, and Magic of the Dragons of the Land. Chapter 4, The Dragon of Sky, Things to Come, Shining Ones of Night and Day, Magic of the Dragon of Sky, and Magic of the Tarot. So here we get an introduction to using tarot for magic in this book. Chapter 5, Sacred Flame, Fire and Ice. Chapter 6, Sea, Land, Sky and Sacred Flame, the superego, id and ego. So how to separate your ego out of your magic and recognize when you are actually working with these creatures and when you're not, and being honest with yourself in the process. That was an interesting chapter. Chapter 7, the Gordonian knot, the consecration. There is some knot magic and binding magic in this book. Chapter 8, the drag she altar. In the heart of sacred space dwells the altar consecration. So this is how to set up your altar for this journey, and where you should place things, and kind of a basic layout. They do freestyle this a lot and say it should be unique to you, should feel right to you, don't let anyone tell you otherwise, and just buy things as and when you feel called to them. Don't feel like you have to collect all your tools all at once. So there's some very good information there. Chapter 9, magical tools, the chalice, the staff, the sword, the blackstone. So they're the 4 main tools used on this particular path in this book. Most of those you'll have already, and the rest are pretty easy to get your hands on. They're not too expensive, and everything they use is pretty simple in this book. So you're not going to need to buy expensive, extravagant things. So that was chapter 9. Then we've got chapter 10, dedicating the tools, entering the double spiral. Chapter 11, dragons and sacred space. Enter the dragons of sea, the dragons of land and the dragons of sky. Some terms and gestures. So this is about using gestures, terminology, certain words, certain phrases in order to summon and call upon these types of dragons and bring them into your practice and invite them into your space. Chapter 12, dragon circles, and this is split into the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere, which I thought was really clever. And you know what? I wish more books would think about where you're located. Are you in the southern or the northern hemisphere? Because certain things are going to be different. So I did like that they put that in this book and thought that was really handy. Then we've got an illustration, which is called The Book of Dragon Shadows. And then we did have an illustration at the top here, which is called Dragons of Sea, Land and Sky. Both of those designs are by Ashley Magick Dream Bloss. And, you know, her information's at the back if you're interested. Chapter 13, Dragon Magic Grimoire. Planetary hours of the day, planetary hours of the night, and choosing when's best for your magic. Then chapter 14, planetary magic squares. You will have seen them before in occult magic and Solomonic magic and planetary magic. Chapter 15, magic paradigms. Chapter 16, fire, oil and smoke, working with candles and candle magic, candle colours and candle burning times. Chapter 17, magical oils. Chapter 18, incense recipes. Both of those are themed around dragons and making oils and incenses for your dragon magic that is very specific for accessing dragon energy. Chapter 19, Drag She Sabbat, sword cycle. Chapter 20, mid-spring, northern hemisphere example ritual. Chapter 21, mid-autumn, southern hemisphere example ritual. Chapter 22, magical spells. So this section covers a few notes on spell casting, and then money spells, prosperity spells, flying spells, cloak of invisibility, other miscellaneous spells, and then tarot, major arcana, spell work. Chapter 23, the magical ruins. And here you have quite a few sets of ruins. You have the Celtic tree oglum, you have the Elder Hawk ruin set, and you have the Druid ruins, which I have never seen before. So that was interesting. Apparently they're unique to the Druid path. I'm not a Druid and I've not read many books on Druidry, so that was completely new to me. Chapter 24, Draconic Wicca. So I'm going to pause there for a moment and just let you know that there is a little bit of Wicca influence in this book. It's not heavy on Wicca and you can ignore it, you can adapt it. This book is quite versatile, quite flexible, very inclusive. So everything you will find easy and adaptable to your own practice. So in that chapter, Draconic Wicca, it says, invoking the Lord and Lady, Draconic Charge of the Goddess, then we have Draconic Charge of the God, Draconic Cone of Power, Esmat and Drawing Down the Moon. And then we have another illustration called Dragons of the She. Chapter 25, setting forth on the Drag She path, the Drag She creed. So this particular section of the book is more unique to their blend of practice. So they designed this path, which as I said is on the front, the Drag She path. And this is the introduction to that, and then how to dedicate yourself to that path if you like so far what you've read in the book. I didn't choose to do that, but I did read over it. Pretty easy to do, nothing too extravagant. It's like a dedication ceremony. Chapter 23, Chant of the Alchemist Dragon, Nagari. Chapter 27, The Witch's Weird. Chapter 28, Chakras from the Occidental Perspective. Chapter 29, Dragon on My Shoulder. So this is like working with your dragons and having them with you all the time and have them as spirit guides. Chapter 30, Entering the Dragon Realm, the dedication. So this is like entering their realm, crossing over the hedge, astral projection and spirit work. Chapter 31, A Weird Journey. Chapter 32, The Rainbow Bridge, 7 Dragon Eggs. That chapter I adored. It was really interesting. 33, The She. So that's kind of the fairies, the Sydney, and so on and so forth. Chapter 34, The Drag and that particular energy. Chapter 35, The Fabric of Magic. Chapter 36, Entering the Weird, The Witch's Weird. Chapter 37, The Elements, Elemental Dragon Information, Elements and Dragon Magic Circles with the Elements. Chapter 38, The Dragon Rabbit Hole, Dragon She and the Elements. Chapter 39, To Touch a Dragon. Chapter 40, The Dragon's Staff. Chapter 41, The Path to the Sea. Chapter 42, The Lords of Land and Nature. Chapter 43, To Touch the Clouds. Chapter 44, Dancing in the Flame. And chapter 45, The Circle of Stones, Making the Circle of Stones, the 4 Treasures. So all of these here from 39 to 45, they are sacred meditations and astral projection journeys that you do with your dragons that gain you insight, powers and abilities. And then you end with kind of, you get gifted this sacred staff in the other realm. You empower and bless it on this journey, and then you kind of end with bringing all of these sacred treasures together. The interesting thing about that is the 4 treasures they talk about on those journeys, they're actually in Celtic mythology as really empowered magical items, which I thought was really interesting that they chose to center those meditations and spirit journeys around those items so that you can collect those items and kind of work with them astrally and magically and connect with them so that you have a link so you can use and access their power in your magic. So honestly, a packed book full of information. So I'm now going to kind of show you a little bit of the book and give it a bit of a flip through, and then we'll talk about the book itself. So as you can see, the font is pretty big. There is a lot of information in this book. There are some illustrations and doodles as well. You will see pictures here of the author's personal altar. There is how to dedicate your tools, spirals, and different ways of working with energy. Here it's telling you to invoke and banish if you're in the northern hemisphere versus the southern. There is Dragon Magic Grimoire, working with the planets, with the Elven Star. You've got a list of the planetary hours. There is also the Magic Planetary Squares in here as well. The Magic Paradigms. So this is kind of like statements of intent, of importance. So it focuses a little bit on the laws of the universe. So you know how people talk about manifestation, the law of attraction? It's kind of like a draconic version of that. So for example, the paradigm of attraction, like attracts like. They're not going to give you everything in this book and spoon feed it to you. So you have to figure out, what does like attracting like mean? So if you're in a negative state and you are kind of constantly attracting negative people to you and having these negative experiences, it's because you yourself are in the negative state. You're vibrating that kind of energy. Like attracts like. So as you're negative, you'll attract only negative things in your life. So you have to break out of those cycles and have a different way of being and looking at things in order to start shifting your energy and vibration. And as you shift onto a new plateau, you will start attracting new things into your life that will break that cycle and put you into a brand new cycle. So it's all about figuring out what these things mean. So it's about giving you the information but without teaching you all about it. So you have to go away and do research and figure it out for yourself. Here we have all the candle colours, magical oils. So like I said, we have recipes in this book. incense recipes, things that you can make very easily. Here we talk about the sword cycle. So this is how the Wheel of the Year turns for a Celtic Druid practitioner. There we go. So rituals, magical spells, all of which are pretty simple, guys, easy to do. I think a beginner could easily do them, to be fair. So here we have the groupings for the Oglum, the Elder Hawk ruins. This is a really good breakdown as to what they mean as well. So hail is in the weather, so hailstone. So it gives you a lot of that. Here is the Druid ruins, which was basically a set of dragon ruins from Druidic mythology, which I didn't know about. And honestly, I really enjoyed reading over this section. It was really interesting. I liked the way as well, just to show you this, he's given a numerical association. So if you see 111, this would be the draconic symbol, which means in a Roman letter K, and its name is Fog Dream, Untapped Potential. So you can use numerology to decipher messages from the dragons, which I thought was really cool. Invoking Lord and Lady. So these are kind of like charges of the god and the goddess, things you've seen before if you're a Wiccan practitioner. Here's one of the artworks that I mentioned. The chakras, you know what, the chakra work was really good. I enjoyed that so much. There's a draconic version of this, and what I liked about this was he kind of gives you the chakras and then breaks it down to a colour, a planet, and then an energy. So for example, the throat chakra is blue, connects to Mercury, and is all about communication. So that was nice that he tied it in like that. And then he teaches you to open your chakras and close them, but using dragons. And it centers around using dragon eggs and eggs hatching dragons for you to activate your chakras. And I really enjoyed that. It was really good. So yeah, that's something I've been doing now since reading this book. Dragon on your shoulder. So this is like when the dragons start to kind of invade your life and work with you a bit more and be more in your space. Dedicating yourself, the weird journey, the 7 dragon eggs. So there's a lot of information in this book, guys. There's a lot of doodles and imagery. And there's some great meditations. The beautiful thing about these meditations is they are all given for you online as a link that you can press and listen to. So you don't have to read them from this book. You can actually go to this location and play them so that you can listen to them and perform the meditation and have a real nice experience. You can, of course, read them out to yourself and you can pre-record them yourself, that's fine, but they are also provided for you online, which I thought was brilliant, and I actually think more authors should do that. This was also brilliant. So this here, the magic of the circle of stones. Most people might have thought that was a stone circle or some kind of ritual. It's not. It's actually creating prayer beads for your dragons, and it gives you full instructions of everything you would need to do it. So if you want to create prayer beads for your draconic practice, you can do that in this book, guys. So honestly, I did enjoy this book. So let's talk about the neutrals first. So this book is not for a beginner, guys. It's more for an intermediate practitioner. You do need to know the very basics of the craft and witchcraft, and it helps if you know a little bit about Celtic, Druid, and Wicca practices. Parker and Gwyn state in the book that you will not be spoon-fed information. You will have to do some research. So if you don't understand a terminology or something that's mentioned, pause your reading in the book and go and do research and figure out what that means and learn all you can about it. They're not going to sit here and spoon feed you. This is based for an intermediate to advanced practitioner, not a beginner. So if you do come across something you don't know, you are going to have to go the extra mile. This book doesn't include a history of dragons and dragon magic, so you will have to also go and research that and find the information elsewhere. There is a book review on my YouTube where I recommend books for dragon magic. Some of those are historic mythological based books, so you can choose one of those to get and read through, which will give you a good foundation for dragons and understanding them before you go into this book. Now for the positives. This is a dragon magic book with practical ways to actively work with dragons. It provides you with the foundations to create your own spells and rituals so you can build your own draconic practice that's unique to you. This book is an interesting blend of Celtic, Druid and fairy traditions with a little bit of Wicca thrown in there. Parker and Gwen have successfully managed to create something that is truly unique and interesting, something that I've never seen before that I did enjoy. They take old ideas and concepts and put a fresh new spin on them, giving them a new lease of life from a new perspective. Some information is their own gnosis, but I personally didn't mind that and enjoyed it. And I put a lot of their theories to the test and I did get good results from it. The most enjoyable parts of the book for me were opening and closing my chakras using the new dragon style that they gave in this, which I mentioned earlier. Working with the dragon runes to make bind runes and sigils, that was fascinating. I love sigil work, so that really appealed to me. Shape-shifting into a dragon and meeting dragon guides, I really enjoyed that, and I did actually manage to meet a new dragon guide from this book. All the meditations and spells I tried worked for me and I did enjoy doing all of them. Included in this book is a recommended reading list, references and quotes, Magick for the Northern and Southern hemispheres, which was nice. It makes it very adaptable and inclusive. They utilise the planets and planetary hours. Geographical information such as sunrises and sunsets is provided, and there's links for where you can go and find that information out based on where you are in the world. They even provide all the websites and information that you need for all of that. Travelling over the hedge for dragon magic and meditations is included in this book. It's just an excellent book on practicing with dragons. If you are interested in dragon magic, this is definitely going to be a book you want in your collection. Now for the negatives. For me, one of the main negatives is the font. So the font is very, very large. The text is very spaced out with lots of empty pages and gaps. Considering this book was £35 on Amazon, which isn't cheap, I felt that the space in the book should have been better used, which would have allowed them to fit more information in the book, which honestly, because I enjoyed it so much, I would have loved that. So look, we get this giant space here, we've got this giant space there, and then we've got all these spacing in the book. I mean, look at that. Like, why isn't that up there where it should be and more information on the page? And then look at the spacing. So that for me was a major negative with the book. You are told that information isn't going to be spoon-fed to you, and where needed, you will have to do your own research, which is fair enough. However, in some areas of the book, they talk about their techniques that are unique to their particular tradition that they designed. I do think more of an explanation was needed and more context for what they were discussing would have been nice, stating their sources for some of it, and also would have been nice if they'd included some kind of background on how they created those things as well and where the logic and thinking behind that came from. Although this is a good book, I did feel that the book was lacking in some ways and could have had more information in it, especially for the price. So mostly it was around the spacing, it was around how big the font was and how much of a gap there was between sections, and then filling the book with lots of large imagery as well. It sort of felt like those things were filler to make the book feel bigger and packed more with more information. There is a lot of information in here, don't get me wrong, but for me, I kind of, if I'm going to pay £35 for a book, and there are books out there that sort of price that are, you know, 1,000 pages big and they're packed full of information and the font is a normal size, so I'm getting more for my money. So I honestly felt the font should have been smaller, they should have fitted more information in or made the book thinner, and I don't think it should have been £35, although I did enjoy the book. So my scoring for this book is 8.5 out of 10. It is a book that I'm definitely going to keep. I did enjoy it. You will connect with dragons with this one. It is a practical book where you're actively working with them, and it's a great starting point for dragon magic as well. I wouldn't say it's going to give you everything on dragon magic, and it certainly doesn't go enough into the dragon path. It kind of is a blend of many paths. So for that reason, it's only an introduction book, but for an intermediate practitioner ready to start working with dragons, I do advise you going and getting a couple of other books on dragon magic, and definitely a mythological history book on dragons to get you started as well. That will give you kind of a well-rounded practice and a wide variety of ideas in order to build your draconic path. So that is my review, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this review and the book. If you did enjoy it, please give me a thumbs up, click the bell, and YouTube will tell you when my next video comes out. If you'd like to offer like, love and support to my channel, you can do that through Amazon or my PayPal link. Both are provided. If you'd like to contact me for my magical services or for divination, or just simply discuss this book or any recommendations that I would give you, you can do that via Facebook, Instagram, X, Tumblr, or via my email, and all the links are provided, guys, in the description of the video, so go ahead and check them out. Thank you so much for your support and watching till the very end. I do appreciate it. And as always, take care of yourself and may the dragons bless you.